The Zelthari alliance was losing. Badly. Their last fortress world, Crixus III, burned under the endless Vorath assault. The sky was a writhing mass of swarm ships, blotting out the sun with their chitinous hulls. On the surface, Commander Vale that's clutched his plasma rifle, his 4 trembling hands barely able to hold the weight. His soldiers, once proud warriors of the Galactic Accord, were now broken, their exoskeletons cracked, their will shattered. "We cannot hold," hissed Science Prime Zuex, her voice a static-laced whisper over the comms. "The swarm adapts too quickly. Our weapons are useless." Vale that snarled, mandibles clicking in frustration. Useless. The word burned worse than the acid now eating through their defenses. The Vorath didn't just kill, they consumed, absorbed, evolved. Every battle made them stronger. Every corpse fed their numbers. Then, a flicker of hope. "Commander!" A young technician, his carapace scorched from a near miss, stumbled forward. "The deep space relay, it's active." The reinforcement request, ***, someone answered. ***. Vale that felt a surge of relief. The Accord had finally sent help. Perhaps the Tier AK battle clans, their plasma-forged warriors. Or the Zenith drones, endless and emotionless. The first human ship dropped out of warp. It was ugly. A patchwork monstrosity of scavenged alloy and crude armor plating, its engines belching radiation like a dying beast. More followed, dozens of them, none matching, none sleek or elegant. Just brutal, functional, wrong. The Zelthari stared. "These are reinforcements," ZYX whispered. Then the humans stepped out. No environmental suits. No shields. Just flesh and cloth and grins. One, a scarred giant with a rifle slung over his shoulder, inhaled deeply, then coughed. "Damn. Smells like rotten eggs and gunpowder. I love it." Vale that's recoiled. The atmosphere was toxic. The gravity crushing. The radiation levels fatal. Yet the humans stood there, breathing, laughing, unbothered. A Vorath scout ship screamed overhead, its biocannons charging. The Zelthari braced for death. The humans cheered. "Finally!" one shouted, racking the slide on his weapon. "Been sitting in that tin can for weeks." Another, a woman with a cybernetic eye, cracked her knuckles. "All right, bugs. Let's see what you've got." The Vorath fired. The humans charged. Vale that's watched, stunned, as the Deathworlders ran straight into the barrage. Plasma bolts seared flesh, they kept moving. Acid melted skin, they laughed. One lost an arm, ***, he picked up his own severed limb and swung it like a club ***. The Vorath, for the first time in recorded history, hesitated. Then the humans hit their lines, and the screaming started. But it wasn't Zelthari. It was Vorath. Zuex turned to Vale that's, her voice hollow with disbelief. "What have we done?" The commander could only watch as the humans butchered their way through the swarm, howling like madmen, covered in blood that wasn't theirs. Reinforcements had arrived. And hell came with them. The Vorath swarm had never faced anything like this. Their numbers meant nothing. Their adaptations failed. Their hive mind, once an unstoppable tide of singular purpose, now flickered with something alien, ***, doubt ***. The humans didn't fight like the Zelthari. They didn't hold lines. They didn't retreat. They erupted. A squad of Vorath warriors, their carapaces hardened against plasma fire, charged a human position. The Deathworlders didn't even raise their guns. One, a mountain of muscle and scar tissue, ***, smiled ***, pulled a blade from his belt, and met them head-on. The Voratha's natural armor? Useless. The human's knife punched through chitin like wet paper, twisting, tearing, dismantling. Nearby, a Vorath bio-cannon turret swiveled, locking onto a group of humans taking cover behind a ruined Zelthari barricade. The weapon fired, spraying corrosive bile hot enough to melt steel. The humans didn't flinch. One, face half melted, skin still smoking, stood up, spat blood, and lobbed a grenade down the turret's gullet. The explosion painted the battlefield in Vorath ichor. The Zelthari watched in horrified awe. "They're not even wearing proper armor," whispered a Zelthari medic, his voice trembling. A human nearby, overhearing, grinned. His armor was a reinforced vest lined with what looked like street signs. Armors for people who plan on getting hit. Then he sprinted straight into a Vorath nest, roaring. The Vorath had tactics. They had centuries of war instinct. But the humans, they had insanity. A Vorath commander, its mind linked to the swarm's collective, tried to adapt. It redirected forces, sent flanking drones, deployed acid spitters to melt through the human advance. Didn't matter. The humans ignored losses. A man lost a leg to a Vorath pincer? He crawled forward, dragging himself with one hand, shooting with the other. A woman took a biospine through the gut. She yanked it out and stabbed the Vorath that fired it with its own weapon. The Zelthari had seen war. This wasn't war. This was carnage. Then came the sounds. At first, the Zelthari thought it was malfunctioning comms, some kind of feedback loop. But no. The humans were broadcasting. Not distress signals. Not orders. Music. Heavy, pounding, primal. Drums. Screaming electric noise. A voice howling in some guttural human tongue. The Vorath recoiled, their hive mind recoiling at the dissonance. The humans, they moved faster. One Deathworlder, covered in so much Vorath blood, he looked like a nightmare given flesh, grabbed a fallen comrade's weapon, a rotary cannon meant to be mounted on vehicles. He hefted it like a rifle. The Vorath charged. He smiled. The gun roared. The swarm broke. Not a tactical retreat. Not a regrouping. They ran. For the first time in recorded history, the Vorath swarm fled. The humans didn't let them. They chased. They butchered. They laughed. Commander Vale that stood amidst the carnage, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The Vorath, the unstoppable, all-consuming swarm, were being hunted. Science Prime Zuex stumbled to his side, her voice hollow. We called for reinforcements. Vale that's watched as a human ripped the head off a Vorath warrior with his bare hands. We got predators. The Vorath High Command had never needed contingency plans before. Every species they'd encountered fell predictably. First resistance, then desperation, then extinction. But now, deep within their organic command nexus, the swarm lords pulsed with unfamiliar signals. Fear. Confusion. Rage. Asterisk asterisk. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were rewriting the rules of war. On the surface of Crixus 3, the Deathworlders didn't bother digging trenches. They didn't fortify positions. They moved. Fast, relentless, unpredictable. A Zelthari scout drone captured the footage that would later haunt the swarm's collective consciousness. 5 humans. 1 Vorath hive spire. No airstrike. No artillery. Just blades, bullets, and bloodlust. The first human kicked in the spire's membrane door. The second tossed a canister of promethium gel inside. The third lit it with a tracer round. The fourth and fifth watched the flames while reloading. 37 Vorath warriors burned alive. The humans didn't wait for screams to fade before moving to the next target. Meanwhile, the Zelthari High Council convened in orbit, their holographic forms flickering with distress. These tactics, hissed Admiral Kerwait H., mandibles twitching. They're not just brutal. They're wasteful. That promethium gel could have powered a city for a week. A human liaison, lean, scarred, smelling of gunpowder and stale caffeine, shrugged. Worked, didn't it? The Vorath responded as they always did, with overwhelming force. A bio-dreadnought, grown over centuries, descended upon the human forward base. Its weaponized tendrils could level mountains. Its spore launchers could choke entire armies. The humans launched boarding pods. Inside the dreadnought's cavernous biochambers, the Vorath defenders waited. Let the humans come. Let them drown in acid mists and living barricades. They didn't account for Private Santiago's flamethrower. They didn't anticipate Corporal Nguyen's habit of stuffing grenades into dead Vorath thoraxes as surprise packages. They certainly never imagined Sergeant Volkova would use a severed pincer as a melee weapon, while singing. When the dreadnought's core detonated, the shockwave lit up Crixus 3's night side like a second sun. The humans who'd evacuated in time stood on a nearby ridge, passing a bottle of something that made Zelthari sensors scream toxicity warnings. One toasted the fireball. Damn. That was a good ship. Another took a swig. Nah, ours now. Back in the war room, Science Prime ZYX reviewed the data streams. Her carapace paled. They're enjoying this. The human liaison didn't deny it. Best vacation we've had in years. Then the alert came. The Vorath weren't retreating. They were changing, evolving. A new strain of warriors burst from gestation pods, thicker carapaces, neural dampeners, bioplasma vents. Designed for one purpose: kill Deathworlders. The first wave hit a human patrol at dawn. The new Vorath were faster, stronger, smarter. The humans loved it. "Finally!" roared a woman as she jammed her combat knife into a vent, flooding the warrior with its own superheated plasma. A fucking challenge! By midday, the humans had captured 3 live specimens. By dusk, their field scientists had reverse-engineered the bioplasma into improvised rocket fuel. That night, as the modified Vorath prepared their next assault, the sky rained burning human graffiti. The message was crude, universal. Try harder. The Vorath High Command received the footage. For the first time in their species' history, they voted to surrender. The humans never got the memo. The Vorath surrender transmission blared across all frequencies, a pulsing bioelectric shriek of submission. The Zelthari cheered. Their homeworlds rejoiced. The war was over. The humans reloaded their weapons. "Negative," growled Colonel Vasquez into the comms, crushing a spent cartridge under her boot. "We didn't cross 6 star systems to accept a damn apology." The Zelthari diplomats panicked. This wasn't how wars ended. There were protocols, treaties. The Galactic Accord demanded. A human engineer silenced them by slamming a Vorath skull onto the negotiation table. Its hollow eye sockets still leaked neural fluid. "You don't get it," he said, wiping gore on his pants. "They don't surrender because they're sorry. They surrender because they're scared." His grin showed too many teeth. "We ain't done scaring them yet." The Vorath learned the truth too late. Humanity didn't want peace. They wanted a lesson. Deep in the Vorath home system, the swarm queens trembled in their birthing chambers. Their last defenses mobilized, bio-warships grown from hollowed-out asteroids, warrior casts pumped full of combat stims, planetary shields woven from living tissue. The human fleet arrived in a storm of radioactive exhaust and distorted guitar riffs blasting from external speakers. Their ships looked like they'd been welded together from scrap metal and spite. They didn't bother with orbital bombardment. They didn't demand unconditional surrender. They dropped troops directly into the birthing chambers. What followed wasn't a battle. It was pest control. Sergeant Malone breached the central hive with a satchel charge, his armor caked in acidic bile. "All right, maggots," he announced over external speakers, shotgun pumping. "Pop quiz." The swarm queens screamed orders. Their perfect warriors attacked in flawless formations. Malone's squad responded with improvised napalm and power tools. Elsewhere, Corporal Chen discovered the Voratha's great weakness. Their hive-mind connection worked both ways. When she shoved a plasma grenade down a warrior's throat, every linked Vorath in a 5-kilometer radius vomited in unison. "Jackpot," she muttered, loading another grenade. Within hours, the humans had done the impossible. They made the Vorath beg. Not for mercy. For death. The final transmission from the Vorath homeworld wasn't a surrender. It was a shrieking, static-laced plea. "Stop, stop, stop, make it stop." The humans obliged. When the Zelthari relief fleet arrived weeks later, they found a single human dropship waiting in orbit. A grizzled warrior leaned against the hull, smoking something that made the air around him shimmer with toxins. "It's done," he said, exhaling a carcinogenic cloud. The Zelthari scanned the planet below. No movement. No life signs. Just silence. And graffiti. Miles high, carved into the dead hive cities with orbital lasers, a single word burned across the Vorath homeworld. "Welcome." Back on Earth, the United Defense Council reviewed the reports. The politicians argued. The diplomats panicked. The generals smiled. A new transmission arrived that same day. Another species. Another war. Another desperate plea for reinforcements. The human response was immediate. "Terms are non-negotiable." Payment in advance. And for the love of God, read the fine print. Somewhere in the cosmos, a Zelthari historian recorded the event with trembling claws. His final entry became legend. Asterisk, they asked for warriors. They begged for heroes. What they got were Deathworlders. Asterisk, and the galaxy learned. The Galactic Accord Senate chamber smelled of ozone and panic. Representatives from 17 species huddled in their atmospheric pods, eye stalks and antennae twitching as the human delegation entered. Not in polished diplomatic attire. Not with peaceful gestures. In combat armor still streaked with Vorath blood. The Urkik's ambassador was first to break the silence, his vocal sac inflating with outrage. This is an outrage. Your actions at Vorath Prime violate 12 interstellar conventions. The indiscriminate. A human marine corporal spat on the floor. The acidic saliva ate through the alloy plating. Weird, she mused. Didn't hear you complaining when they were glassing Zelthari nurseries. The chamber lights flickered as the holographic war records played. Vorath hive cities burning. Human boots crushing chitina skulls. A lone Deathworlder standing atop a mountain of corpses, casually stitching a wound with what appeared to be Vorath nerve cord. The Relani science delegation's lead researcher fainted when the footage showed humans harvesting bioacid to improve their cocktail recipes. This isn't warfare, whispered the Groth High Prelate, his methane breather malfunctioning from stress. This is butchery. The senior human representative, a grizzled general with one cybernetic eye, leaned forward. His smile made the temperature drop. No. Butchery implies waste. He tapped the console. Every Vorath corpse was recycled. Ammunition. Fertilizer. Fuel. A pause. We're very green. The Talashian Trade Union representative saw an opportunity. Then, you'll accept payment in mineral rights for your cleanup services? Silence. Then the humans laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. The general stood, his powered armor whining. We don't want your mines. Your worlds. Your treaties. He placed a scarred palm on the table. It left a permanent dent. We want you to remember. A new transmission played. Not war footage. A recording from Earth. A kindergarten class. 20 human young, tiny, fragile, predatory, playing Vorath Hunt during recess. One child pretended to be a swarm warrior. The others tore the makeshift carapace apart with bare hands, shrieking with laughter. The Groth Prelate vomited nutrient paste. That, said the general softly, is our peace offering. The knowledge that somewhere in the dark, we're still playing. He turned to leave. Sleep well. The Senate erupted. Demands for sanctions. Proposals for human containment. Emergency research into planetary defense. None of it mattered. Because in the shadows of the chamber, unnoticed, a human comm specialist had patched into every system. As the delegates raged, a single file uploaded itself to all galactic networks. A recruitment video. Grainy footage of human warriors laughing through artillery barrages. A chorus of charging chainsaws. The words, "Enlist today," flashing over a Vorath skull used as a punching bag. By dawn, 17 species had fortified their borders. And on 17 worlds, in back alleys and starports, beings of all shapes pressed hidden contacts, whispering the same phrase. Take me to the humans. The Deathworlders had won the war. Now they'd claimed the stars.